I believe the economy I'm leaving is the best in the world and stronger than ever for all Americans.
Opinions vary.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Opinions Varied. It's Opinions with an A. Sorry, I had to hit you with 3 little movie clips in a row right there because Joe Biden deserved it. Joe Biden's delusional. Joe Biden is lying. And I believe this is a setup. This is a setup for the media. This is all a script. It's a book on the shelf that they're about to pick off the shelf because it's ready to go. Donald Trump's ready to come back into office, and they're setting him up for failure immediately when these ridiculous job numbers that came out the other day are obviously going to go down. Donald Trump will be blamed. I'm going to get into more of this, exactly the economic side of this, with a special guest in a video that's going to be upcoming. You'll get to see it. Special guest happens to also be my wife, but she knows a lot of stuff about economics, and we'll talk about it. But that's for another video. For this time, we're going to hear a little bit more from Joe Biden, delusional about how he could have beaten Trump, delusional about pretty much everything. I really don't know what he was trying to say, but maybe you could figure it out. Then we'll hear a CNN clip with Jake Tapper where he's going to interview the person who interviewed Joe Biden, where he said a lot of this ridiculous stuff. And then we'll see Harry Enten, the CNN pollster, who's usually fairly objective when it comes to this stuff with his polls. And he'll hear what he has to say about Joe Biden's claim that he could have beaten Donald Trump. I think you're going to want to stick around for that. Please wait for it. You're going to love it. Without any further ado, let's go.
Do you regret your decision to run for re-election? Do you think that that made it easier for your predecessor to now become your successor?
I don't think so. I think I would have beaten Trump, could have beaten Trump, and I think that Kamala could have beaten Trump, would have beaten Trump. It wasn't about, I thought it was important to unify the party. And when the party was worried about whether or not I was going to be able to move, I thought, even though I thought I could win again, I thought it was better to unify the party. And it was the greatest honor in my life to be President of the United States, but I didn't want to be one who caused a party that wasn't unified to lose an election. And that's why I stepped aside. But
Do you believe anything he just said? Or if you can even decipher what he just said, do you believe it? Joe Biden didn't want to run for president again. Joe Biden became the president in 2020. We won't get into how I think that happened, but whatever. And he had a shot to run again. And you think Joe Biden, who was trying for 45, 50 years to become the president of the United States, just, I don't want to run again. Nonsense. Joe Biden was shivved in the back. Here's what happened. Joe Biden was told, I've said this before, you can go out the easy way, or we're going to show you the hard way. And the hard way was going to be the 25th Amendment, and he was gone. He had no choice. This is all nonsense.
Confident she could win.
President Biden just left California, but in a brand new interview out today, he said he believes he could have won the 2024 election if he'd stayed the nominee. USA Today Washington Bureau Chief Susan Page asked President Biden point blank, quote, do you believe you could have won in November? Biden replies, quote, it's presumptuous to say that, but I think yes, based on the polling that. Biden trails off, and then Page asks again.
We'll get to the polling later. What the hell is he talking about?
Again, do you think he would have had the vigor to serve another 4 years in office? Biden says, I don't know. He then goes on to say, quote, I really thought I had the best chance of beating him, but I also wasn't looking to be president when I was 85 years old, 86 years old, unquote.
Yeah, you know who wanted you to be president when you're 85 or 86 years old? Your wife, Jill.
I want to bring in the woman who interviewed President Biden. USA Today's Washington Bureau Chief Susan Page is here. Also with us, Kate Bedingfield, who was Biden's former White House communications director until 2023. David
and your son.
With us also. He was a senior advisor to President Obama. So, Susan, first of all, what was your main takeaway from your interview with President Biden?
Well, he wants to make the case that these recent controversies over his health, over his pardon of his son, should not be all that defines his legacy. So he wanted to make the case that his legacy is broader and more consequential than that. He'd
be lucky if that was all it was about. Everything else is a disaster too. Worse.
It's also clear he's not quite ready to leave the Oval Office. I did the last print interview with George W. Bush. He was ready to leave the Oval Office. Joe Biden wishes he had 4 more years.
Well, Bush got 8.
Thank you for being honest.
8 years. So that's one big thing. What do you make about this claim that he would have won if he had stayed the nominee?
That's not the conventional political wisdom that he could have won. The conventional wisdom is that he was in a place where he was not likely to win if he stayed in the race after that disastrous debate. And so he is at odds with the opinions of most politicians in that. But I thought more extraordinary than that, because politicians, you don't become president.
He's at odds with most people with half a brain cell.
Unless you have a lot of confidence in yourself. More extraordinary than that to me was his admission that he's not sure he could have served 4 more years.
Yeah,
He couldn't serve the last 4 years.
that is quite an admission, because obviously when you run for president, you're running to be president for 4 years. You're not running for 2. And I never heard him say, I'm going to run for 2 years and then step down. David and Kate, I'll start with you. Do you know of any polling that he's referring to that actually bears out this idea that the polling indicated he would have beat Trump?
No.
I know of only data to the contrary.
Yeah, look, I didn't see any polling at the time when he decided to drop out that would have suggested he would have won. That's kind of the tricky thing about polling, though, and this is an argument that we were having at the time he was dropping out. Polling can't tell you definitively what's going to happen 4 months, 6 months from now. But no, was there polling at the time he decided to drop that suggested he would have won that race? No. But look, Susan's absolutely right. Nobody becomes president of the United States without a sense of confidence. Some would say a sense of ego. And I think, what would you expect him to say? Of course, he's going to say that he thinks that he could have won. I would have loved to see him answer.
I love how the Democrats and the media, they always say, what did you expect him to say? Does Donald Trump ever get that? Does Donald Trump ever get, what did you expect him to say? No, they rip apart everything he says. He never gets that little caveat. What did you expect him to say? It never gets that, Donald Trump. Joe Biden, what did you expect him to say? Hillary Clinton, what did you expect her to say? Barack Obama, what do you expect him to say? Bill Clinton, what do you expect him to say? I could go on and on and on. And Donald Trump never once gets that benefit of the doubt ever.
Daddy, chill.
That question in a way that didn't necessarily make it the driving headline coming out of the piece, because there were so many other things that I thought, articulated really well in terms of defending his record and his legacy. But sometimes he's just gonna say what he thinks.
Always, he says what he
Or
thinks.
he's always.
That guy.
Right, Donald Trump says what he thinks, and he's evil.
But I mean, look, I remember George W. Bush saying to me when he was a governor, I'm not going to walk through a minefield of hypotheticals. I mean, that's an answer for him next time.
Exactly. Or, hey, does it matter now?
Right.
Which is another way he
Well,
could
it's
have
also
answered.
kind of a slam on Vice President Harris in a way, David, because she obviously didn't win.
Yeah, and let's be honest, one of the reasons she didn't win was because she was seen as the number 2 official in the Biden administration, and this was a judge.
What was she? She was the number 2 person in the Biden administration.
Judgment about fairly or not, this was a judgment about the Biden administration. Kate's right, you can't project.
What do you mean she was seen as? I got to go back to that. She was. I was the last person in the room. My title, vice president. That means you're number 2, right? Right. These people are crazy.
4 months ahead in polling, but we know what polling was on election day, and Joe Biden had a 40% approval rating. I don't think there's a president who's won re-election with an approval rating that low. So you look, one has to comfort oneself in these moments, and that's probably what he's doing. But I think it's nuts to think that he would have won that election. The bigger thing, though, is this notion that I don't know about, what I'll be like when I'm 85 and 86. That was the whole concern years in advance. And it wasn't a judgment about Joe Biden. It was a judgment about the human species that, was an actuarial concern.
Where was your concern when he started really falling off the deep end, probably, a minute into his presidency? The guy campaigned from the basement in 2020. Where was this concern? You guys, the revisionist history of these people, it's incredible.
That was very real, that you when you're that old in a job this hard, that it's doubtful that one can go full steam for another 4 years. And that was a concern that, he blew through when he decided to run. And the shame of it is, I think a lot of the accomplishments that he is proud of deserve the attention that they're not getting now.
Which ones?
And they're not getting that attention because of the way he ended and the bad decision he made.
See, this is what I'm talking about, the echo chamber of CNN. Jake Tapper, stop him right there. Which accomplishments? Which ones? Inflation? Crime? The infrastructure that obviously we don't see now in California where they can't get water to a fire hydrant? That? All that infrastructure he likes to talk about? What, the train derailment in Ohio? The horrible response to North Carolina? And if I was in North Carolina, this is a whole nother topic. I'd be seething right now with the attention that LA is getting. That's a whole nother topic. But what accomplishments, Axelrod? Jake Tapper just sits there with this dumb look on his face.
To run and to persist. Had he chosen a different path, I think he would have a different set of circumstances right now.
Susan, you also asked President Biden if he would issue preemptive pardons for those who are in the crosshairs of President-elect Trump.
Preemptive pardons. We've never heard of anything like this ever, really. They would ask Trump if he was going to do it just to try to corner him in his first presidency. You don't hear about this stuff. There is no such thing as a preemptive pardon. None. You can't be pardoned for a crime you haven't even been charged with yet. What he did with Hunter Biden, this 10-year blanket and future crimes, it's unconstitutional. Somebody needs to challenge this garbage. If he starts doing it to other people like Hillary Clinton, Fauci, who's the other one that they keep talking about? Liz Cheney, and just go down a list. If he does this, these preemptive nonsense, this needs to be challenged immediately by Pam Bondi. Immediately.
Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney, the former director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Dr. Anthony Fauci.
As you can tell, I haven't watched this yet. He's saying everything I just said.
It depends on who he, meaning Trump, puts in what positions. So tell us more about that interaction and what that might mean.
You know, he talked a little about what he told Trump when the two men met a week after Election Day in the Oval Office for almost 2 hours. And he said he encouraged Trump to drop this idea of retribution. He said it wasn't going to serve Trump's own purposes to do.
Could you imagine being Donald Trump, the man who just got sentenced to an unconditional release or whatever he got yesterday for this nonsense that he went through in New York, the nonsense of having his home raided, the nonsense of the Georgia trial, on, and you got Joe Biden telling him to just drop this retribution you're thinking about. Could you imagine being Donald Trump? How do you not leap across the room and lose your mind? I mean, I would have had the Secret Service. I hope they were close by when Joe Biden said that, because I wouldn't have been able to control myself. I don't think. Could you imagine? My God, these people they're unreal.
And he said that Trump did not say he was going to follow Biden's advice, but he didn't dispute him. He listened to what he had to say. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, yes,
the other interesting thing about him talking about that meeting with Trump, and we don't know much about what went on in that meeting. He said that Trump praised his economic record. Now, Trump has been nothing but relentlessly critical of Joe Biden on the
Says who? Joe Biden says Trump praised his record? Yeah, okay.
Economy and everything else. But Biden said, I had a good record.
Kate, do you think Biden should issue these preemptive pardons to Liz Cheney, Anthony Fauci, et cetera?
I personally have not been a fan of this. I think by its nature, if you're issuing a preemptive pardon, you're suggesting that somebody did something wrong. There's an element of admission of guilt that comes with a pardon.
Really?
I also think there are questions about whether a preemptive pardon would stand up in court in different situations. So I haven't been a huge fan of it, but I certainly understand, given everything that Trump has said about what he intends to do with the presidency and with his government. I can understand the reason for it. But again, to me, it's an admission of guilt that I think is unnecessary.
Right. Again, Jake Tapper, what did Trump say he's going to do? No, there's never, this is the CNN classic echo chamber. There's nobody on there to push back on any of the drivel that comes out of these people's mouths. Nobody. They just say it, and Jake Tapper just sits there. What did Trump say he's going to do with the presidency? You mean what? He might actually investigate, see if there's criminality here, because it looks like there might be. That's what you're supposed to do, right? I mean, especially, the precedent's been set, right? Show me the man, I'll find you the crime. Is that it? Right? Unreal. So let's move on from that. And we're going to Harry Enten here. This is the part we've been waiting for. Let's see what Harry Enten, who's the pollster on CNN, who I said is usually fairly objective, especially for CNN. Let's see what he has to say about Joe Biden's claims that he could have won. Let's go.
Okay, Joe Biden in his exit interview with USA Today claims that he could have beaten Donald Trump had he stayed in the race. So this begs the question, could Biden have won the 2024 election had he stayed in the race? Truthfully, I categorize his statement as flat out bonkers. Why do I say his statement is flat out bonkers? That he could have won the 2024 election had he stayed in the race. Just take a look here. The road to 270 electoral votes, Trump versus Biden, based upon polling when Biden dropped out of the race. Look at those Great Lake battleground states. You know the ones I'm talking about: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Donald Trump ahead in all three. How about here in the Southeast, North Carolina, Georgia? Again, Trump leads. How about here in the Southwest, Nevada, Arizona? Again, Trump leads. But it's not just that Trump is ahead. He was ahead by a lot in these key battleground states. Again, when Biden dropped out of the race, let's take a look at the polls in the Great Lakes. What do we got? 3, 4, 5-point leads in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania for Trump. A lot of red on this side of the screen as well. Georgia, North Carolina, Nevada, and Arizona. Those key Sunbelt battleground states, 5, 6, and 6-point leads. My goodness gracious. Of course, this is just one point in time. I know that's what Joe Biden would like to argue. So let's look at the entire 2024 campaign. Days Biden led Trump in 2024 when Biden was still in the race. Get this. 0, nada, no days was Biden ahead of Donald Trump. Now, of course, we looked at one point in time. We'll look at when Biden was still in the race. What would have happened if Biden had stayed in the race? Is there any record of candidate as unpopular as Joe Biden winning? Look, Biden's net approval rating on election day, minus 19 points. Look at this. 0 of 6 incumbents reelected with a negative net approval rating. The bottom line is this. Joe Biden was behind. He had always been behind, and he most likely would have stayed behind. And that's why I categorize his statement that he could have won the 2024 election as flat out bonkers.
Okay, flat out bonkers, according to Harry Enten, and he's right. You know what happens, I think, if Joe Biden stayed in the race? I think Virginia, Trump wins that. I'm just adding to the ones he already won. And I think Trump probably would have won. Here you go. He would have won New Jersey. New Jersey was a little bit less than a 6-point margin for Kamala Harris. I think Trump would have won New Jersey. And I think New Jersey, and I've said it over and over again on this channel, remember this in 2028. I could turn out to be wrong, but I think New Jersey is in play. You have Scott Presler. If you don't know who Scott Presler is, he's the one who basically went into Pennsylvania and single-handedly helped Trump win that state with his voter registration drive. He's incredible. He's now has his sights set on New Jersey because Scott Presler is not a moron. He's very smart. And Scott Presler, like I see it, sees New Jersey as gettable. And I think Donald Trump would have won New Jersey if Joe Biden stayed in the race. He would have won Virginia, and he would have won New Jersey. And who knows what else? The margins in the states would have been even higher. The popular vote win probably would have been 7 to 8 to 10 million. So the ridiculous claim by Joe Biden. Ridiculous. The only thing Kamala Harris did was say to the people who were just desperate for not to vote for Joe Biden was say, all right, I'll swallow hard because I'm a hardcore Democrat. I'll vote for Kamala Harris, or I just hate Trump. But Joe Biden didn't have that going for him. Everybody was so sick of Joe Biden that they were, I have to vote for Trump. Biden can't win. Can't have it. So that's the difference. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. I really appreciate you watching. And please like, share, and subscribe, especially if you made it this far. I'm trying to grow this channel. And if you like this content, I do at least one video a day. If I don't do a video, it's something unforeseen that I just couldn't get to it. But it's at least one video a day. And as I said, I appreciate you watching. Please like, share, subscribe. It helps this channel a lot. And we'll see you next time right here at Opinions Vary.
Opinions vary.